Hi, welcome to How to D&D. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, specifically monsters, and we've picked an interesting monster for today. I think that the black pudding is just not used enough, frankly, and the 5e black pudding's not a particularly exciting monster. I like the older one a lot more. But before we go any further, I'm not going to talk alone about this. I have a Dungeon Master Roundtable here with me, a bunch of individuals who know lots about Dungeons and Dragons. And what we're going to do is we're going to go around and we're going to give you some fun and interesting ways that you could use the black pudding in your game, or that we have already used in our own games. Some ideas for you to explore, use, ignore, whatever you want to do. So we'll start off with Alex, the Bear Bard. What have you got?
I'm just here to prove that you are correct and that it is very underutilized. I have never played in a game that has used the black pudding, and I have never I've never put on a game. That being said, I was looking into them, and I think I am going to put them in very soon, because I was going to do, in the current campaign I'm running, I was going to do like a little side thing. All my players are really into horror. And so I was going to run a more like horror side story thing. And I absolutely feel like these guys could be put along with like mimics, as far as just like basically liquid mimics. I'd love to use them as far as something like that goes, bucket of water. Oh, no, it's actually, black ooze, make it more symbiote kind of venom style. I kind of like that. I can totally see him being used in some sort of like horror setting like that. Um, for me, it's all going to be theoretical, like I said, because I've never actually, seen one in game. Because you said that, I'm like, why does he have these enemies, and then all of a sudden like a food item? I didn't even realize it was, I'm like, I've never heard of somebody using black pudding as a food item, so. But yeah, I think they're awesome for something like that, like sort of a horror field vibe. And if you like, for me, I think you're right. Like the book, it was kind of really boring in there. But what really kind of sparked my interest is I went into Google and just looked at images, and you start looking at what people's interpretations are, and you can get some really cool ideas, especially again for some grim dark horror type of feel. And I think there's a lot of really cool things you can do with that down that path.
Yeah, it's very much an ambush creature. I think a lot of oozes are very much a trap monster, and you've really got to position them and place them in the right place for them to work. So they would work quite nice in a horror sort of themed adventure. So yeah, no, I like that idea.
Like alien ship, only it's a black pudding that's zipping around. That would be awesome.
Like that.
Like I'm thinking of the movie
Reynolds.
Alien, like that kind of a thing where you're like, how do we find it and stuff.
Was that Ryan Reynolds flick that came out where there's that? I've never seen the movie, but the commercials at least, like it starts in a petri dish and it keeps growing from there, and
I think it was called Life.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Something.
I think you're right. Something like that.
I was going to say Detective Pikachu, so I'm wrong, but
What's that
Yes.
horror movie? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
That horror movie where they're in space doing alien life. Oh yeah, Pokemon. I got you.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Pikachu and Pokemon, Taryn, Indestructoboy, tell us about the black pudding and Pikachu. Is it Pokemon? Pikachu?
Is it because he wants to be the very best? I don't understand.
Like no one ever was.
Yeah. What have you got for the black pudding?
What a segue. I mean, black puddings, right? Like it says right in the lore, these things are essentially nothing but blots of shadow in a dungeon. Anywhere that you have any source of darkness, you've got a prime hunting ground for a black pudding, right? Like the mimic is like, okay, I can see the thing and I don't know whether or not I want to touch it. And then a black pudding is like, I can't see the thing and I don't know whether or not I want to touch it, right? Like this is the way that you make just literally any darkness in a dungeon horrifying, more so than it already is. These things can be stretched across an archway. The players just run into it like they're running into plastic wrap, like, oh, there you go. one of the things I personally really love about them is, and it's unfortunate in 5e that like the corrosive mechanics are like, it's like I have to track another thing for this item, and I love rust monsters, and they're theoretically, but like God, it never feels like running one really feels like I'm destroying the player's equipment, right? And I think the black pudding also kind of has that problem of like running that corrosion faithfully. Like, what do you? If there's something out there that'll help out with that, yeah. But you know, the these are monsters that I use. I think of oozes more like if I'm going to run an ooze encounter, I'm not necessarily thinking about how can I get this thing to hit the players that hard. I'm thinking about what environment can I construct around this ooze that makes the encounter difficult, right? Like, because they can't move really fast. I mean, 20 feet of speed. Okay, your wizard hits it with Ray of Frost. It's got 10 feet of speed. Just have the party run back, right? This is something that you're using in an environment to make, like, the environment is what's going to make the encounter interesting with this. Not necessarily just the fact of, here's a black blob, fight it, right? Like, you know, if you had like a black pudding as your main boss fight, that it's always going to feel a little bit underwhelming. However, if you do things like, okay, there's areas of darkness in which this thing is hiding up in the recesses of the ceiling. I mean, it's a CR4. You can throw this at, let me see here, 18.6. So you could throw this at like a party of, oh man, it'd be a hard fight for some level 2 characters, especially with all those damage immunities. But like, man, the split reaction, there's just like, there's so much I love about ooze stat blocks for what they can convey about like magic of not just the world, but like the dungeon creator. And I think oozes, if you're really wanting to like design an encounter that's going to be really interesting with these, it's got to be more about how interesting can you make the room, not just the monster, you know? And that's what I think is fun. Put up iron bars in the room that the players can't run around, but this ooze can totally squeeze through. Make just like a maze of prison bars. Like, what I like oozes because I think they make me think more about the environment rather than just here's the stat block, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right that I've always found that the black pudding works pretty well in somewhere where there's lots of little crevices because they can't move very fast. But the black pudding's never really been a monster that players' characters have ever really considered scary. The thing that was scary about them that they've kind of removed is they could corrode. Black puddings could corrode anything, like magic items. It's not just your armor and your weapons that you needed to worry about. The same thing with the rust monster. They removed that in 5e because they decided that being able to destroy magic items was not a good thing for the game, and that players would dislike that. But frankly, I run all of my rust monsters and black puddings like that. They all destroy. It doesn't matter what it is, it's gone. That's the scary thing for players. It's not really the fight, as far as I can tell, in terms of the concept behind that creature. But beside the point, thank you for that, Taryn. And Jordan, what have you got for the black pudding?
All right, we have a little gem of a TV show. I'm going to take you back to 1991 and the Pirates of Dark Water, okay? I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's the perfect D&D campaign of a bunch of pirates, and they're on a boat, and there's this weird stuff called dark water, and it's like a somewhat sentient black pudding that floats on the water and eats boats. Legit, it's like, it's a dumb show, but I remember it from my childhood. I've always thought of black puddings as the dark water. And so you're like sailing along and you have puddings out in the ocean that are like riding on top of the water. And then when they get your boat, they start dissolving it and eating it. I also like the idea of puddings that in the stat block, when you do slashing or lightning damage, they split in half, which leads me to think that they also combine. And so if you have this dark water that's out and about, what if all black puddings are actually one giant organism that's been split a whole bunch of times? And your campaign could be that it's slowly coming back together to form this ultimate giant pudding. And maybe when they get closer together, they become more intelligent because it is an intelligent creature, but it lost its intelligence as it's been separated. So I don't know. Like we were talking about favorite monsters, and I like slime or oozes a lot, and the black pudding has a lot of potential. But specifically, I always think of Pirates of Darkwater, and I want to run something like that.
I have to say that the black pudding kind of reminds me of the old movie The Blob, the 1950s movie with Steve McQueen and a few other people.
Have you seen I think it's the 80s one. They remade it. And it's a legit fun horror movie. Like the original Blob is fine. But it was back when they still didn't know how to make like scary movies. So there's a lot of like standing and talking like, how do you think we could get rid of this? I don't know. But the new one, or not new, but I think it was in the 80s, is really like, it will instill that fear into your players when they see like, oh my gosh, like flesh is being torn off because it's literally being digested inside of this blob. So I think blob monsters like that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the worst thing you could have is have this thing inside you. Yeah, don't swallow it.
Ugh.
Yeah, don't let it crawl into any orifices, because God knows what it could get up to while it's in there. Very, very bad.
And my other idea, I had a whole bunch, but I rejected a few of them. But now I'll tell you. So if you do like if you do lightning damage and stuff, it splits in half. Well, what if you just kept doing that? Like a wizard or something was like, I want to see how far I can split this thing. And then it has 85 hit points. So what if you had 85 1 hit point oozes that like float through the air and cover, I mean, like, boom, and you're just like digested in seconds because there's 85 of these little buggers like attacking you at once. That could be cool.
So it's like the argument of what you
like a mist comes and gets you. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
No. So it's like, would you rather fight a teenager or like 12 fifth graders? Yeah. This is basically the argument you're making.
I love it.
It's like really messed up napalm. More messed up napalm somehow. I actually just looked up that Pirates of Dark Water, and there's a character in there named Terran. So I'm gonna have to watch this immediately. Yeah.
Damn.
So
the pilot, which is like, I think the first 3 episodes. Brilliant campaign setting, or brilliant for a campaign, I think. And then they tried to get it, just peters out. But I rewatched it as an adult, and I still think it's fun. So
like a 90s cartoon.
Yeah, it is a 90s cartoon. Like. Straight definitely. Up.
I say, you know what I really liked was Taryn. Are you a Doctor Who fan at all?
Yeah, I mean, Amanda's the bigger Whovian than me, but yeah, definitely.
Because the way you described him basically reminds me of like the Vashta Narada in the library episode. I don't know if you ever saw it. When David Tennant, his run, they had that where they hide in the dark.
The skeletons inside the astronaut suits.
Yeah. So basically, what they are, they're these like little, like almost fish-like things, but they're in the shadows. And because those were the skeleton in the suit was actually just like a person that got eaten because they were in the shadows. And so that's when you were talking about that. My first thought was Vashta Narada. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a cool way of bringing it into the game with an existing monster.
Well, there's oblexes that are very. I mean, you've got the ooze adjacent, monster right there that like totally fits that vibe. Like, oh man, black puddings are another just one of those, like it just feels like classic D&D whenever you've got one of these. I mean, they're it's like beholders, mimics, gelatinous oozes, rust monsters, bullets, just fill that classic like displacer beasts, like that is the D&D fantasy vibe, right? And there's infinitely reusable, super versatile. I love them.
I have one idea. I had 2 ideas, but it's already the other one's already come up. So I'm just going to present the one idea, which again is extremely silly. I was thinking, what about a butcher? And yeah, okay, you've already figured it out. What about a butcher who sends out people to kill black puddings, so that the body, or what's remaining of the black pudding, can be made into sausages and sold on the open market. For those of you who don't know, I am taking the mickey out of the fact there is such a thing as a black pudding. It's a sausage, and I remember eating it as a child. And the fact when I first discovered that Dungeons and Dragons had a thing called the black pudding, I was like, why would they make a monster that's a sausage? Like, I was confused. So I thought I would bring that up as one of the ideas that you could have if you really wanted to, hunting down those black puddings in those dungeons and making them into sausages to sell to people. I wonder what a black pudding made into a sausage would do to a person when they eat it. I mean, does the remains of a black pudding just sort of dissipate into nothing, or does it stay active the whole time? Do you have to destroy every little molecule or cell of it? I don't know.
See, I feel like you're getting into like Sweeney Todd here, where instead of just people pies, it's the adventure goes out and, oh yeah, we have this great sausage. I swear it's not an evil shadow ooze monster that I put into it. Don't worry about it, guys.
I think if they're corrosive and they're super acidic, wouldn't that mean that they would taste like really sour?
I'm getting older, so I like sour.
Maybe weird flavor attracting. Yeah, I mean, maybe.
See, here's another one. You pay adventurers to go kill black puddings, bring them back, and there you have a paint thinner. So it's used by builders.
I really want to stand up that swarm of like tiny split black puddings now. I want to see like
85 of them.
That could be a pretty cool stat block. I'm not gonna lie. Ooh, all right.
Yeah,
kind of like the swarm of books.
Yeah,
well, I like
fly speed of 60 feet, please. Fly speed of 60 feet. We want to make sure that they can get to their target. Okay. Otherwise, they're never going to make it. If they can only move 10 feet and they can fly, they're still not going to make it. So yeah, a bit faster. Did you want to share any of those other ideas that you had listed down there, Jordan, that you had rejected? Because
no, I'm good.
You're good. Oh dear. All right. Okay. I think we have brought the black pudding to the end of its tail here, and hopefully it's an idea that will help you in some way. Somebody has probably mentioned something you can use in your game, and if we haven't, sorry, but let us know down in the comments section how you would use a black pudding or how you have used a black pudding in your game. Thank you to all my panel members. You will find all the information down in the description. So you can go and follow their channels. Go and check out Jordan. Go check out the Bear Bard Tales and Indestructoboy. And if you're watching this, you're already watching my channel, so it's all right. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.